question today from a bodybuilder that actually wants to use competing in powerlifting as part of his bodybuilding off season, and this can definitely be effectively done. If you look at Brian Dobson and I co-authored the book on Metroflex Gym Powerbuilding Basics, talking about powerbuilding. So obviously, every bodybuilder is going to be part powerlifter, and every powerlifter is going to be part bodybuilder if trained correctly. I mean, you go all the way back. Before, like, everybody was just so pumped up full of growth hormone and insulin, but you go back to, Ronnie Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Franco, all these different people. Dorian Yates started training heavy compound lifts when he's locked up. All these, bodybuilders have had some sort of powerlifting or strength training in their back because, strength, your limit strength, how much you can lift is your base. You cannot shoot a cannon out of a canoe. Okay, so anyways, I came up with 5 ways you can do this. I actually cheated today and made a couple notes right before we did this. So the first one is, obviously, you're going to lift raw. So that being said, that needs to be, your raw lifting needs to be limited to, you don't have to be like psycho and be lifting butt naked or anything, but lifting belt and wraps, okay? And just look at all the physiques of a lot of the top raw lifters. I mean, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or leave anybody's names out, but with the exception of a lot of the super heavyweights, there are some amazing physiques of the top raw powerlifters, and you didn't see that before when gear was king. Most of the people that weighed over 200 pounds looked like out of shape truckers, and that's just not the case anymore. So what gear does is basically it works, almost like, say you're benching or squatting, almost works like a rubber band. So it's gonna like store the energy, propel you up. So that's great for lifting more weight in competition where it's allowed, but that's not going to build you more muscle. So you want to, obviously lift raw. What I mean by raw is you can take your own definition there. And people always argue over what it means, but let's leave it at, you need a belt and wraps. That's it. Okay, next, you want to deadlift. Number 2 is you want to deadlift conventional. Okay. So sumo's going to be more of a leverage lift. It's perfectly legal in a powerlifting competition, but it's, unless you're trying to like specialize in your adductors or something, it's not going to really put on the same amount of muscle that a conventional deadlift does. A conventional deadlift's obviously going to increase the range of motion. It's going to increase the time under maximum muscular tension. And here's your bottom line: is you're trying to do all those things. You're also trying to gain real strength. You're not trying to improve a competition number with a mechanical advantage. So for bodybuilding, you want to keep generally. We're not making hard and fast rules, but generally, you're going to want to keep your deadlifts conventional. Okay. You want to bench press like a bodybuilder. What do I mean by that? So it doesn't mean you have to be like crazy and like, oh yeah, I'm going to use 50% of my max. We already did a video on that showing with lighter weights when people really hard to try to like purposely contract their pecs to get a lot more out of it. But as the weights got above 80%, that wasn't the case. So you don't need to be crazy and be using these pygmy weights that ain't going to cut the mustard and trying to fill your pecs out. But what I do mean by that is you don't need to be excessively arching. You want to move the barbell from point A to point B without an excessive arch. You still want to focus on the actual movement, not just trying to purposely contract the muscles, but you want to actually, and you want to eliminate any kind of belly benching. So if you're not able to, get anything out of pec development for the bench press, a couple things you can do is like isometrically, like we've talked about, squeeze your pecs before you bench press. In some cases, this is a whole other issue. I shouldn't even open Pandora's box, but this might be a case where pre-exhaust training will be warranted. I've used that with a few people, especially like strongman guys that are getting into bodybuilding. They're so tricep and shoulder dominant, they do pretty damn good with a pre-exhaust on the chest, but that's another topic. Okay, next, number 4, don't cut weight. So the whole purpose of first off, there's a way too many people cutting weight. I think unless you're going for it's some really deep personal goal, you have to hit this at a certain weight class, and you're not going to do a bunch of meets. You're going for like a world record or some extreme, championship, not like, the world championships, held at Motel 6, 90 miles northeast of Nashville, Tennessee, like a real world championship. Fine, cut the weight, but generally, if it's not going to be the best thing for you. If you're trying to gain mass in the off season, so like drastically cutting, like 30 pounds or something to make a class is going to totally defeat your purpose. Your purpose is for muscle hypertrophy. So you start cutting weight, you throw a monkey wrench in it. So don't cut weight. Okay. Squat to grow. So what I mean by that is, This is again, if you have been with geared powerlifting, so you're gonna have more of a narrow stance, which more raw powerlifters do. I don't mean excessively narrow, but shoulder width slightly outside of shoulder width, and this is not one of those excessively wide stances. Because if you think about it, like say you're squatting 400 pounds, do the work you do. 400 pounds for 10 inches, 400 times 10 is 4,000 pounds of work. Where you squatting for 20 inches is 8,000 pounds. So I don't even think this is, I probably shouldn't even have said this one because it's not going to apply to most people. Because for raw, it's not an issue, but you do want to squat to grow. So if you're just, getting, your feet as wide as the monolith goes, dumping it on your back and moving the barbell 2 inches, and you're getting those passes in competition somehow, that's fine and more power to you. But for bodybuilding growth, I don't recommend that strategies. So you can use those 5 strategies to actually use powerlifting. Hey, Hank, what's up, buddy? So you're gonna use those 5 strategies to make powerlifting productive for your off-season bodybuilding. Good luck.